Hello and welcome to a live fanfiction reading of a random Winx Club fanfiction. So if you haven't been to any of my previous random fanfiction reading, the rules are I go on it. I've only gone on fanfiction.net so far, but I'm open to going on other websites. If anybody has any suggestions, I know there's like AO3 and Wattpad. Those are the two major ones I know. But I've been just going on fanfiction.net because it's just the easiest to randomize on that one. And also, it's the least likely site where I'll run into mature fanfictions because I don't read mature fanfictions on the live stream. And I just pick the first one that shows up. So by default, fanfiction.net sorts by the last one updated. So it's not a true random selection. It's just the last one, the most recent ones who have updated. So yes, I'll wait a minute or two for people to kind of come into the stream. I know it kind of takes a while sometimes for people to get notifications. So I'm going to quickly pull up the chat on my phone. So I'll have the chat available to me as I am reading the live stream. Alrighty, there we go. Now, so for those of you who are in kind of the Winx Club fandom, on fanfiction.net currently, they don't separate the Winx Club, the cartoon, and Fate the Winx Saga, the live-action Netflix series, into separate categories. Because I know, because on fanfiction.net, they kind of categorize by show and then by like medium. So technically, while TV shows and cartoons are two separate categories on fanfiction.net, currently, fanfiction.net does not separate Fate the Winx Saga and the Winx Club cartoon into two separate categories. Also, they also include the World of Winx Netflix cartoon series and the comic book Winx Club series into kind of the same category in the cartoons. There's some very slight continuity differences between the two, and then of course you have the different translations, which I don't think fanfiction.net sorts for either. So, and then also I will say about Winx Club, I have not watched the two most recent seasons. I've been like slowly working my way through the more recent seasons. As you know, I grew up with the first three seasons and specifically the 4Kids translation of the first three seasons. So when I'm reading these fan fictions, you'll kind of tell like the voices for the characters are definitely going to be inspired by the 4Kids version, just because that's what my brain kind of defaults to. But yeah, they don't sort for that. So there's some stuff in the comics I'm not super familiar with. And then also, like I said, I haven't watched the most recent seasons yet. So if there's like some stuff like I can't pronounce or I'm just not familiar with, that's why. But yeah, and hopefully, because like the random Lord of the Rings fanfiction I ended up reading just kind of by happenstance. The one I picked ended up being really long, so we only really read one. But I did kind of like a quick scroll through of kind of like what the general meta of the Winx Club fanfiction world is like, and their fanfictions tend to be a lot shorter. It's kind of like when I read Winx Club Evolved, the chapters were a lot shorter. So I guess I'm kind of in line with the trends that way. I might do another reading of Winx Club Evolved, which is my Winx Club fanfiction. I just didn't want to do two in a row. I kind of wanted to switch it up and maybe read somebody else's Winx Club fanfiction before reading more of my own. I don't know. I just didn't want to like have it all be about me. But I do want to let you know I will not continue, because if you guys like, if I find I have a longer fic and we don't end up finishing it on stream, I am definitely open to continue reading it in the next live fanfiction reading stream. But I will let you know that Lord of the Rings fanfiction that I read during the last random fanfiction stream, I'm not going to continue reading that, because actually the author asked me to like not read anymore. So actually I do need to take that video down soon. Just hasn't been high on my priority list, because I think that person, the author sent me the PM right around the time I was getting my gum surgery. So actually I didn't see it until this Friday. And then also it really hasn't been getting that many views on the replay anyway. So it wasn't like a huge priority, but yes, I do need to take that video down actually. So yeah. So it happens when you read. Just choose a random fan fiction. Sometimes the author isn't super comfortable with you doing that, which is fine. The author, I think, is allowed to have that opinion. So let's get started. Okay. Ooh, there's some good categories here for cartoons. A lot of stuff I do know. Um, Actually, I will also say while I'm here, um, before I begin, I there will be no Writing Wednesday this week because instead of filming Writing Wednesday tomorrow, which is what I usually do, I am going to be filming my review of WandaVision. And I'm reminded of that because one of the top categories in cartoons on fanfiction.net is X-Men Evolution, which I will be reviewing after my review of WandaVision. Or honestly, if the WandaVision review does very well, if I see that my audience really isn't interested in like Marvel and X-Men, I might just skip the X-Men Evolution review. It's a cartoon series I'm really passionate about, and I'm like rewatching it because of WandaVision. But if people are really not interested in that, I might just skip it and just like rewatch it for my own self. Hey, basic bitch. I wish I could stay, but I can't. Everyone seeing this, remember to leave a like. Oh, thank you, basic bitch. Yeah, it's okay. If you can't stay, I do know today is like a school day, and a lot of people are like going back to in-person school, or even like are still doing digital school, but like really shouldn't be shouldn't be watching a live stream during school. But so I completely understand if you can't stay, but thank you so much for leaving a like. Ready, just switching to live chat instead of top chat because we've been having some problems with chat not showing up. So hopefully if I have it on live chat instead of top chat, hopefully I'll be able to see all of your guys' messages. But without further ado, let's get started. Winx Club, click, and the first one that shows up is called Nurture of Their Flower by Philly Writes. Rosalind is headmistress and Farah Dowling is missing. All hope seems to be lost until Musa catches a sound on the wind. Will the school's joy be restored, or will the flower continue to wither? Okay, so this is a Fate the Winx Saga fanfiction. It's only 2 chapters, only about 2,000 words, so we can actually definitely get to some more. We can finish this pretty quickly, and then so yeah. Ooh, am I gonna remember the voices from Fate the Winx Saga? Ooh, oh no! Oh no, no, no! Alrighty. Author's note, I recently finished season 1 of Fate, and I have to say I'm positively obsessed, especially because of Farah's character. As usual, I get attached to fandoms, and now I'm in love with Althea and its lovely inhabitants. They have so much potential, and the relationships are really comforting to me. The setting, this is set a couple of days after the girls arrive back to Althea. Oh, okay. So yeah, this is somebody who really liked Fate the Winx Saga. That's so cool. Alrighty. So without further ado, I present to you Chapter 1, The Nurture of Their Flower, Comfort in the Cold. Oh, and a spoiler warning. So spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched Fate the Winx Saga yet, because this will spoil the show. I just don't understand, Bloom whispered. Miss Dowling wouldn't just leave the school like that. Maybe the queen had use of her in Solaria, Tara wagered, her hands gripping tighter to the plant pot as her doubts grew. I remember when I was little, Silva and Miss Dowling were always being dragged out to conferences at the worst of times. No, Stella said. My mother wouldn't ask for help even if Solaria was burning down. Her ego is far too precious, Stella scoffed. And besides, Silva is under arrest, so I doubt he's in the presence of the queen. Stella's right, Aisha interjects. Stella rolled her eyes. Like that's a first. Aisha carried on. Did you see how Queen Luna treated Miss Dowling? She looked at her like she was the scum of the earth. She clearly has some sort of jealousy towards her. The girls nodded in agreement, Stella looking slightly guilty on behalf of her mother. That's an understatement. I can practically feel her hatred slap me in the face repeatedly whenever she's round and Styling. I don't even have to be in the same room and I can feel it. Lisa sighed and turned her gaze to Stella. Talking about feelings, Stella, you are not responsible for your mother's choices. The girls turned to the blonde, the same blonde who would have glared at them and told them, I'm the Princess of Solaria, you don't understand. But instead, Stella gave a sarcastic chuckle and hung her head slightly. She's my mother. I was raised by her, the woman who helped put Silva in prison and Rosalind in position of headmistress. If he ever gets out, how can he and Sky ever look at me or not blame me? Not think that I'm exactly like her? Pulling out her hands, she lowered to a whisper. I blinded my best friend. I'm a monster. Unexpectedly, Bloom got up from her seat at the window and pulled Stella into a hug. She stiffened at first, but soon melted into the embrace, firmly wrapping her arms around Bloom in return. Tara moved first to join the girls, Aisha and Musa following, and soon the whole suite was huddled in a protective hug, cherishing the warmth that seemed to have disappeared with Rosalind as headmistress. Oh, I love hugs, Tara exclaimed after a couple of minutes, causing the girls to laugh as they stepped from the hug. What? You don't know how long I've waited for our first sweet hug. Well, it was a long wait, Aisha admitted. But it was so worth it, Musa smiled. Uh-huh, Bloom agreed, grinning madly. It looked nice, but I can't say I wasn't invited. But I can't say as I wasn't invited. A playful voice sounded from the corner. The girls all spun around to see Sam standing against the wall with a pout across his face. Sam, honestly, Tara said, exasperated. Just because you can walk through walls doesn't mean you can't knock. I think you'll find the technical term is bore. Sam smirked at Musa knowingly, then looking back at Tara, who glared at him, who was glaring at him, he threw his hands up in mock surrender. Or next time I can knock, sure thing. Tara gave into her amusement and smiled slightly, walking back over to where she lay her plant pot down. Sam flopped down next to where Musa sat and looked after his sister, who had moved into her room. Has she been hugging that plant this whole time? Musa nodded her head. She's been attached to it ever since we came back, Stella asserted. She only puts it down for lessons and apparently hugs. Sam sighed. Why? Aisha mused, munching on a cookie. She never relied on them like this except for when Mum died or Aunt Farah and Uncle Silva had to attend a meeting and took longer than expected, Sam explained. Tara walked back into the room, the pot still securely wrapped in her arms. Seeing everyone looking at her, she stopped and looked questioningly. What? Tara, what's so special about that plant? He asked softly, nodding his head to the flower. Oh, it's kind of silly, really, her voice trailing off. You can tell us, Tara. I promise we won't judge you, Musa assured. Well, Tara stammered, Aunt Farah gave me this plant for my birthday, and I miss her, she whispered. Musa gave a sad smile. Me too. We all do, Aisha confessed. They all nodded their heads and met in an embrace for the second time that evening. We'll find her, Bloom stated determinedly. I promise. All right, end of chapter 1. Hey, Queen. Hey, Avatar Roku. Oh, you changed your avatar. Cool. Is that somebody from K-pop? That person looks familiar. So yeah, that was chapter 1. I had a feeling these chapters would be shorter than Lord of the Rings fanfiction. So yeah, I'll take a break. Rest for my voice. Me. Ah! I did some vocal warm-ups before this, so I wouldn't kill my voice during the stream. Oh, okay. So I'm reading the author's note for chapter 2. Philly writes, I hope you're comfortable with me reading this out loud on stream. I'm super stressed at the moment, which is not the best way to start. I am ever so sorry. My country had decided to reopen schools today, and yes, I should be happy that we are no longer in lockdown. However, I struggle with anxiety, and now this is just pushing me over the edge. My mind is erratic right now, and so I figured I could use the nonstop noise for this chapter. I hope my nerves don't impact my writing too much. Oh, I don't know if you're watching this, Philly writes. I certainly don't expect everybody I read for random fanfics to like find my live stream. Although I do try to like message the author kind of afterward, letting them know like, hey, I read your fanfic. But I do want to say that like it's totally fine if you're like feeling nervous over, especially if like you haven't been vaccinated, your family hasn't been vaccinated, if you have older relatives who like haven't been vaccinated yet. It's like perfectly reasonable to like feel anxious over. I'm not sure what country you're from, but I know here in America, like it's kind of a big debate as to whether schools should reopen. I know like I lost my last semester of college to lockdown, and it's kind of weird because like what I was talking with a friend about this, and like, you know, because my college, the college I went to, is doing like hybrid, but depending on what classes you take, there isn't an online option. You have to do in person, and that's like really nerve wracking for a lot of people who are still there. So yeah, I you are completely understandable in like being really nervous over that. And we've been really enjoying your fanfic. So at least I have. I haven't really heard anybody in chat talk about it yet, but I'm sure like people are enjoying it. So yeah, let's get on to chapter 2. Nurture of the Nurture of the flower, shadows take over. They wake with a bang so loud Aisha falls out of bed and lands with a thump on the cold, hard floor. Aisha! Bloom exclaims, getting quickly out of bed. Swaying slightly with lingering drowsiness, she makes her way over to her friend who is still gathering her bearings. What happened? Aisha grumbles, rubbing her head, which she had bumped onto her side table as she fell. Their door flew open and the other girls burst through with panicked expressions, Sam following through the wall. What the hell have you done now, Bloom? Stella proclaims, her magic spreading to each corner of the room as if checking for an intruder lurking in the shadows of the early morning. What? No, nothing, Bloom testifies. It wasn't me. Stella raises her eyebrow. You're telling me that you aren't the one who caused a big problem for once. Aisha, who had moved from the floor to stand by the window, fixes Bloom with a pointed stare. She has a point, you know, she states. You nearly caused a wildfire. You went through the barrier and encountered a burned one, which Miss Dowling had to save you from. Well, technically, that was Stella's fault, Tara points out, her voice dying down as Stella throws her a glare. You and Sky went to fight another burned one, in which Miss Dowling had to save your asses yet again, Aisha continues. Went on a joyride with the girl who had been making our lives hell ever since you broke her out, and then Rosalind, who... All right, Bloom rolls her eyes, throwing her hands up, exasperated. But hands down, I didn't cause whatever that noise was. Hate to break it to you, Sam teases, but your hands are currently up. Bloom picks up a pillow and launches it at him, hitting him square in the face. He laughs and ducks as another comes flying over his head. I feel my time here is done, he declares, making his way over to the wall. And with that, I bid you farewell. And he's gone, leaving the girls looking after him with amusement. The door is literally right there, Stella comments with a hint of annoyance. He's a drama queen. Always has been and always will be, Tara agrees. Did I tell you about the time? Tara walks out with a mildly irritated Stella by her side. I'm going to get ready. See you when Musa starts and is disrupted by a loud and piercing voice. All students, fairy, and specialists must make their way to the training field in no less than 5 minutes. Anyone who turns up even a second later will be punished. The sound canal boomed through the room, making the girls hold their ears in discomfort. That sounds like Sky's dad, Aisha muses. I've got to admit, I prefer Silver's voice. Sound much more calm and collected. Come on, guys. I don't think I want to find out. I want to find out what that punishment is, Musa mumbles. Me neither. Let's go. The students are all huddled together in the muddy, cold field, muttering quietly to each other about why they have been called out so early in the morning. The sky seems to reflect their mood, the dark gray clouds covering the sky like doubts and despair in their minds. The birds silent in respect for the missing headmistress, knowing that with her gone there is nothing to rejoice for. The sun hidden behind the looming shadow for her replacement, Rosalind. whose presence caused more cold than the harsh, piercing wind. I'm scared, guys, Tara whispers, edging closer to the middle of the group. I know, Musa comforts her, grabbing her hand and squeezing gently. Tara begins to relax when Rosaline strides into view, quickly squashing every sense of safety with every step she takes. Now, as you're all aware, your recent headmistress is no longer present. Her voice sounds across the yard, sharp and cruel. I am sure many of you are wondering where your precious leader has disappeared to during these trying times, and I cannot say you'll like the answer. See, I came across Farah packing to leave and begged her to stay. For the school, for the safety of her students. But she turned away. Without even a hint of remorse, she left her school, left you. Her voice was fake, every word spoken with poison, and Musa could swear she saw a glint of enjoyment in her cold and hard eyes. So, to look after the school and students, I have took up the position of headmistress. The students start whispering to each other, anxious about the news. Quiet! Rosaline hisses loudly, a look of disgust across her face, before seeming to remember herself and placing a stiff smile in place. A lot of things are going to change in Althea. Dowling was soft on your training, always precautious. Trust me when I say that is going to change. Precaution is weakness. Her slow progress and control was weak. We have no use for weak students. That is why we have designed a test. You will train nonstop this week. No control, no holding back, but putting every raw emotion into your fighting. She smirks. Since Mr. Silva is currently away, Sky's father will be the new headmaster and head specialist. Andreas steps forward, making his presence more bold. Thank you, Andreas. Rosalind says coldly as she steps back quickly from her glare. Now, off you go. Quickly now. No time to dawdle. If you want to stay here, you better work hard, because I cannot guarantee your place will be yours much longer. With one last smirk, she spins around and marches off. Andreas steps forward again. You heard her. Move, he shouts. Students begin to move, terrified about what will happen if they don't follow orders. The Winx suite look to each other. This will be a hard year, Musa states. They grumble in agreement. That's why we need to find Miss Dowling before anything gets out of hand, Bloom asserts. That means going against rules and getting into trouble, Aisha points out. Our area of expertise. And that's chapter 2. And that's the last chapter, actually. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think of this first Winx Club fan fiction we read. It's not technically Winx Club, it's Fate the Winx Saga. But yeah, I like it. It's like, I totally forgot what Rosaline's voice sounded like from Fate the Winx Saga, so I kind of defaulted to the woman from Harry Potter. And Dolores Umbridge. Yeah, Umbridge. I like defaulted to Umbridge. I like vaguely remember what she sounds like, but yeah. The thing with like reading Fate the Winx Saga, it's like everybody except Bloom is in a British accent, obviously, because like I'm not like natively from the United Kingdom. I really like, and I've never had any kind of dialect training, so I'm fairly confident in my British accent, but I can't give a lot of variance in it. So I feel like all of like the characters who speak, when I was reading it, all the characters I was speaking with a British accent all kind of had the same voice, except for Tara, because Tara has a very specific cadence. So yeah. Hey Seth, yo to you too. We just finished reading Nurture of Their Flower by Philly Wrights. It's only 2 chapters long, so it was a pretty short read. So I'm waiting to hear what like the people who read Nurture of Their Flower, or like who heard it, what they think, and then we'll read another one. So yeah, what's been going on, Steph? It's been a while since I've done like a Winx Club related thing, so it's like weird to see all like the Winx Club people coming back in. Alrighty, I think I'm ready for another one. So Nurture the Flower is still the top one. But the one right below it is Even a Witch by Legendarium Keeper. A season 6 finale AU. What happens when swarm enemies have to live together? What happens when your life changes completely and you have to rebuild your identity? Notes, out of character, seasons 7 and 8 are not considered. Alrighty. And it is 32 chapters long, 70,000 words. I think this is the one that we are going to read for the rest of the stream because there's no way I can get through that long of a chapter in like an hour or so. I think I'm pretty comfortable keeping the live fan fiction readings to an hour because just my voice when you're talking the whole time and you're not like, I mean, obviously during the chatty work streams I read the chat, but it's something different when you like have to like read out a whole story nonstop because I don't look at the chat in between chapters. So this is like, yeah, like with unlike Lord of the Rings fan fiction, these chapters are really short. So I'll be able to look at the chat a little bit more often compared to when I was reading that Lord of the Rings fan fiction, which now that you're here, Seth Griffin, I said this earlier, but I'm going to be taking that video down soon because the author I read of the Lord of the Rings fan fiction I read wasn't comfortable with me reading it. So I'm going to be taking that down soon, and I'm not taking any more requests to continue reading that specific Lord of the Rings fan fiction. So yeah, disclaimer: I do not own Winx Club. Trigger warning. Thank you. Thank God. Sometimes there's not like trigger warnings in these fan fictions. But yes, trigger warning for depression and child abuse. This is a Winx Club fan fiction. Season 6 finale AU. So this is regular Winx Club, not because the last one was Fate the Winx Saga. Currently, fanfiction.net does not separate the two. Chapter 1, Prologue. She cannot go on like this. Someone must move her, give her a shock. The girl who talked was Asian, with long black hair. A girl with amber complexion and green eyes answered her. But Musa, if she did not want our help, maybe she just needs some more time. Please! She is shouting for help quietly, Flora, even though she can't admit it. I agree with... Wait, is this supposed to be dialogue? Because it's in like these little like it's in like the line brackets. Oh yeah, this is supposed to be dialogue. Is this like a... I know like people write in fan fictions in different styles. So like there's some people who write with like all lowercase and there's some people who do things differently. So yeah, it's not because the dialogue is not in parentheses. It's in these like dashes. Once the stream ends, I'll like link everything down below so you'll know what I'm talking about. Or you can just go to fanfiction.net right now because you'll probably see the same thing I do. And yeah, this is Even a Witch by Legendarium Keeper. So yeah, this threw me off for a sec. I think I need to... Seth Griffin. Just here listening, you can tell she's a princess on loop. Oh, wait, are you talking about me? All right. Okay, so this must be Musa. She cannot go on like this. Someone must move her. Give her a shock. The girl who talked was Asian, with long black hair. A girl with amber complexion and green eyes answered her. But Musa, if she did not want our help, maybe she just needs some more time. Please! She is shouting for help quietly, Flora, even though she can't admit it. I agree with Stormy. You don't know her at all. She has never been so off. She's always reacted. She never stopped. For 2 months now, on the other hand, she has been dragging herself through corridors, always sighing and pursuing who knows what thoughts. She is no longer icy, and I do not know where the strong and determined witch I knew could be. Stormy, sinking into an armchair, murmured, She's drowned in a sea of bureaucracy. Ooh, that's not the greatest Stormy voice. She's drowned in a sea of yeah, that's more it. Sea of bureaucracy. Neither Darcy nor the four fairies replied. In the past 2 months, they shared the apartment in the College of Althea. The Tricks, after Bloom had decided to give them another opportunity by preventing Selena from locking them in the Legendarium, had undergone a process before the Council of the Fortress of Light. It hadn't been easy, but in the end, the wise men had condemned them to attend the fairy school's upgrading courses under the direct supervision of the faculty and the Winx. During the first weeks of coexistence, silence could be cut with a knife, but slowly they learned to know each other, and sometimes fairies and witches were surprised to think of the others as their friends. This was Darcy and Stormy. After a brief relief from the judgment of the wise men, Icy had given up to a static depression, responding to in monosyllables, and the only ones who could get a word out of her mouth were the professors. When she was not in class, or she studied, she would never have given the council the satisfaction of calling her unable, or she would lay on the bed watching the ceiling. Sharing the room with her was like dividing the room with a ghost. Darcy had tried in every way to shake her out of her torpor, but nothing to do. Icy had kept basking in her state of non-life. For the Witch of Darkness, Icy's departure had been a low shot. They had grown together. Together they had been transformed for the first time, and together they had fallen into the trap of the ancient witches. Stormy had only added herself at a later time, and soon became the favorite quarrel of the girl with light blue hair. During those months, Stormy had not missed a chance to punch on Icy, hoping for some reaction. Needless to say, all of her provocations had fallen into the void. The greatest reaction she had aroused was a glaring look when, after having realized that Icy had spent an entire day on the sheets, she asked if she had any intention of becoming part of the furniture. The Winx, for their part, were limited to timid attempts for fear of saying or doing something wrong. Once, with the help of Darcy, they were able to convince Icy to spend an afternoon in town with them and specialists. But in front of their failure, they decided to leave her some space. On the arrival of summer holidays, the fairies had agreed to spend 1 month each at Althea with the Tricks. At the time of the discussion, Musa, Flora, Bloom, and Stella were in Althea, the first two ready to go, and the latest ones just arrived. Tired of the silence they had created, the red-headed girl said, "There must be a way to get her back to herself. Darcy, Stormy, you've known her for years. Is there something she has always been keen on?" Darcy thought for a moment, then said, "Music. As a little girl, she was just singing all the time." "She didn't seem to be very interested in my collection of records," said Musa, skeptical. Stormy gave her a look that said, "I'm not surprised." "Your collection," she mimicked with the quotes of her fingers, "is composed almost entirely of classical music, pop, and musical bases of individual instruments. In the cell phone of Icy, the songs that are not rock are counted on the fingers of a hand." Stella and Bloom glanced up and grinned. "Rock? Seriously?" asked the Fairy of the Fire, beginning to search in a bag. "Yes, but not that of the origins. She prefers the musicians still alive to the extinct ones," the Witch of Lightning replied. Stella sat on the armrest of the armchair. "Then the concert will not be for 4, right, Bloom?" "That's right," said the red-haired, showing triumphant four tickets. "We thought we'd go with Sky and Brandon, but we might still be in time to find more tickets. The concert is in 3 weeks." Darcy's eyes lit up. Here's the shake that her friend was waiting for. A ticket. Just one more ticket. The council will be more inclined to allow one of us to leave the campus than all 3. The girl smiled, complicit, something that until recently they would not believe was possible. Flora and Musa left, but they made time to hear Bloom enter the room and Icy report the news, naturally glimpsing the discussion. Obviously, the witch tried to protest, but was immediately silenced by Stella's perentory, "You will come!" End of chapter 1. Alrighty. Barbie, you can tell she's a princess. Aww. Oh, the song. Yeah. Have I heard that song before? I think I have like once. So what do you guys think of the first chapter? Taking a bit of a break here to get some water. I could feel kind of like, because Musa and Stormy kind of have that scratchy quality to them. Their voices were kind of blending together a little bit. Yeah, Stormy's kind of got that raspiness to her, whereas like Musa's a little more nasal. It's hard to switch like immediately between the two. Alrighty, chapter 2. Wake up, wake up! There had to be Darcy and Stormy's influence. There was no other explanation. Only they knew how much she liked music. Icy smiled at the empty room. She did not mind coming out of that pink-painted jail. She had understood very well why Stella had not even let her begin to protest. The message was clear. You must give yourself a move. A concert, or rather, a rock show, as Bloom pointed out to her friend, would have been the perfect opportunity to wake up. She was tired of that immobility, but she could not get away because she felt she had nothing else to cling to. Oh yes, her sisters were important to her, and she was sorry to hurt them that way, but they too reminded her of the mistakes she wanted to forget and that she was not ready to face, not at that moment. One day she would turn back and deal with the past. Until then, she decided that at that precise time, she would have to reconstruct the Icy who faced problems even when they were immensely bigger than her. She jumped up and headed for the door. She would begin to rebuild herself from the foundations. She paused a moment before opening the door. She had read time before that the human structure needed a different number of pillars in every age. As children too, that is, the figures of the parents. These were then joined by the first close friends, and in puberty, they were often replaced by these. One would reach 20 years with at least 4 pillars, a relative or a similar figure, 2 friends, and a passion. Icy knew she did not have the first, but she had Darcy and Stormy. Her first goal was to reconnect the relationship with them and to figure out what was, if any, her current pillar for passion. She nodded and opened the door. The girls were in Stella's room and were helping her to unpack her suitcases. An immense task, since the fairy had filled 6 of them, which had, however, been subjected to spells of expansion. Stormy saw her. So, you decided to exist at last? Icy shrugged. If I get orders, even from the sun's rays, I have touched the bottom. Darcy chuckled as she bent a shirt. Look, even she has a little wrist. She looked at her in the eyes. Welcome back. Icy did not answer, but took the shirt from her hands and put it in the drawer. 3 weeks later, the evening at the concert. Are you ready, Icy? Bloom asked. The witch raised an eyebrow. I thought we were waiting for Stella to tell the truth. Bloom crossed her arms. Do not use magic in front of the Earthlings, because we will not be in Gardenia. We will not be in Gardenia. But I do not know which town on the other side of the ocean. I got it, the witch interrupted her. Bloom smiled and left looking for Stella, who seemed to have been lost in the depths of her wardrobe. Neither it was connected to the basements like that one of our apartment in Cloud Tower, Icy thought, shaking her head. She felt a pang of pain remembering the first year at the witch's school. It had been almost normal in the early months. She was just a brilliant girl who could safely go around the city without seeing people scraping for not crossing her. A few years ago, this reaction in people would make her proud, but now she just wanted to disappear. Bloom came out of the room, followed by Stella this time. The Fairy of the Sun was wearing dark, skinny jeans, a shiny orange shirt, and sleeveless jeans jacket. Her hair was loose, and she was still barefoot. Thank you, Bloom! You are a treasure! I thought I'd have shoes fit for this one instead. The rest of the sentence was lost in the other room. Darcy, who had watched the scene, looked up to heaven. The fairies came out of Bloom's room, Stella with golden sandals at her feet. Bloom, are you sure you want to wear that necklace? Maybe it would be better. Oh no, that's enough, Icy thought. So she jumped out of the couch and grabbed Stella for the arm, walked fast to the door. See you, she greeted out of the apartment. Bloom laughed and followed them. Okay, I think this is a scene break. So Lizzie was checking for the last time one of the guitars that she would use that night. Then she should have surrendered to her hairstylist, who was looking for her for centuries because she absolutely had to try a new hairstyle. Not that she was sorry to change, but she preferred to try this kind of things before the concert night. Josh, the bassist, passed by her. He had very short hair, could spend all the time he wanted preparing his instruments. Lizzie replaced the guitar. Perhaps she would have convinced the hairstylist to desist. It would have been it would have been skimming gymnastics, but she would have won. She wanted a fantastic evening, and at that time, for fantastic, she meant, I do not want to worry about my hair because I'm already quite tense because of the jokes my voice is playing in the last few days. In fact, the change of voice that she had been addressing for months and which seemed like a solved problem had returned to be felt for her happiness. Luckily, that evening was the last of the tour. After that, waiting for her, there was a month almost devoid of commitments during which she could finally have a little time for herself. That thought relaxed her. It would have been all right that night. No unexpected. The fans would have had their rock show, and she would welcome with open arms all the energy that they would have to transmit, and that would fill the strange sense of emptiness she had felt growing even more in her chest. End of chapter 2. Alrighty, let me know what you guys think. Yeah, so like this last like paragraph, the like paragraph division, it's not like divided by like the paragraph line that you usually have in fanfiction.net. It was divided by two, like, they're not dollar signs. I want to call them simoleon signs because that's what they look like. If you play The Sims, like the fake currency in The Sims is called simoleons. And it's like kind of a dollar sign, but it's kind of warped. So yeah, the paragraph was divided by two simoleon signs, is what I'll call them. If you're following along and reading with me, please tell me if you like know what they actually are, because I'm just gonna call them simoleons. So yeah, like so the next paragraph kind of changes perspective to, I guess, the people we'll be seeing at the rock show, and the characters whose perspective this is from. You would think I thought for like a second, I was like, that's Lizzie, but it's spelled, there's no I. It's Lzzy. So would that be Izzy? But it's an L, so there's an L sound somewhere, unless it's a silent. I don't know. I also, I thought at first it was a typo, but they spelled it twice. So I'm assuming it's supposed to be spelled like that. Be interested to know. Let's see, what are we doing for time? Okay, we can do maybe 2 more chapters. We have about 15 minutes left. Chapter 3, The Rock Show. She did not have a great sympathy for Earthlings, but she had to admit it. When it came to creativity, they were unbeatable. Are you a freak like me? The woman's voice on the stage caught her attention again. Wow, passion isn't bad either, thought the witch, impressed. The singer had a shocking energy. Icy expected to see the ceiling surrender from moment to moment for the power of the sounds, or for drummers' acrobatics. They started another song. Okay, that's the lines for the song. I have no idea what the what the music is supposed to be. Maiga, if you're watching, because I attended Maiga Vidal's stream on Twitch before this. Go subscribe to her. But she's like a music creator, and she also does poetry. So like, she would have a better time trying to make up like a beat to these lyrics. But I can just read the lyrics. Boot on the start line, pistol in the air. Quilla in the glass and a cold dead stare. 2 minutes in, baby, make your move. And if you won't do it, I'll do it for you. She had no doubts about it. I jumped the gun. Here I go again. Jump the gun. Practically what she had done all her life, and not just with men. Tritanus, the ancestral witches, Valtor, Lord Darkar, a mistake after another because of that damned hurry to live. Even her being a witch was born like that. She grimaced at that thought. If there is one thing I do not regret, that is not having 2 glittering wings on my back anymore. She shook her head, upset. Hey, was she there to distract herself or not? Enough with these damn thoughts. They already occupied too many of her days. She had to let go that night, have fun as she did not do for too long, or perhaps as she had never done. A man approached her with the obvious intention of offering her a drink. It was a small club, not packed enough to be unable to move. He looked young, and he was not bad at all, so she decided to give him a chance. Good evening, baby. Can I get you company? A girl like you is too beautiful to spend an evening alone. May I offer you something? Icy smiled mischievously. Why not? She followed her companion, recommending herself not to go beyond a pleasant conversation when she realized that they had passed the bar and that 2 men were following them. A shiver ran along her back. Damn! She was constantly in hypothermia. She felt the cold only when she was in danger. She changed direction, but soon she felt someone grabbing her for a wrist. She was about to freeze the owner of the hand when she realized it was just Sky, accompanied by Bloom. Are you all right, Icy? Asked the fairy. The witch released her wrist. The witch released her wrist, and replied that she was just looking for the toilet. Then she turned her back up to the couple and walked away. She stayed in the bathroom for an hour, looking at her reflection in the mirror and wondering what was wrong with her, without finding an answer. In the end, she cursed the 3 men who had definitely ruined her evening and decided to go out. Hardly she managed to reach the first rows, so that she could enjoy the rest of the concert. Here's to us, here's to love, all the times we messed up. Here's to you, fill the glass, because the last few nights have kissed my ass. And if they give you hell, tell them to go frick themselves. Damn it. I said no mature. What is this rated? Teen? Yeah, it's rated teen. So technically mild swearing is allowed. So yeah. I'll do like what they do on GT Live. You've ever seen Game Theory? Just auto just kind of self-edit out the swearing. Icy laughed, hoping things could be so easy for her to shake off all her problems. She could barely breathe without asking permission to the Fortress of Light. Bloom and Stella had dragged their boys to meet with the band, and judging from the line, they would have had it for quite a while. I'm tired. I prefer to go back to Magic's. Without waiting for an answer, the Witch of Ice ran away. She didn't really want to go home. She just wanted to take a stroll and enjoy the silence she was so sure she would find in the streets. She wanted a few minutes to be alone and breathe. She mentally took note to spend the night on the roof of college from time to time. She missed looking up at the night sky. It gave her a moment of peace. She walked for what seemed to her a few minutes, crossing halfway streets poorly lit, until she realized she'd been going around in circles the whole time. The club from which she was leaving was a block away, now half empty. She took a side street, not to be seen by the 4, but now the rivalry had vanished, but there was still a bit of mutual distrust. On the other hand, 6 years did not erase in a second, especially when you live in a state of complete apathy. Icy sighed, and was about to kick a can when she heard rumors. She stopped, listening. Come on, don't make it difficult. Stay away. Come on, cutie, what are you afraid of? We just wanted to have fun. Icy recognized that last voice. He was the same man who had tried to trick her. Now they were no longer in a public place. She would make him lose the will to look for that kind of fun. She ran into the alleyway from where the voices came from and saw the 3 men she had seen in the club with the singer? What the hell was the singer doing there? Oh well, it was not that important anymore. But she would use her magic in front of her. But she would not use her magic in front of her. She could not. Let her go now. She moved toward the group. One of the men with blonde hair and an Adonis look pushed the woman against the wall. The black-haired man, the one who had chatted up with Icy, recognized her even though he was now visibly drunk. See who's back, the cunning baby doll. Are you joining the party? he said, pointing to the other two to get close to her. Icy pretended she was frightened and stepped back to get her back to the wall. One. Ah, aha, did you not understand? We're serious? Kurt, take her. Two. The blonde, Kurt apparently, smiled and approached her even more. Three! Icy kicked him in the stomach, thanking heaven for having taken that martial arts course as a little girl. Kurt fell on his knees, and the witch smirked. Seeing men crawling had always been fun. Click. A dry sound made her turn against the third man, holding a gun. It was too far to take it away. She had no choice. With a fluid motion, the witch cast a spell that froze the gun in the hand holding it. What the hell? What happened? The two men looked surprised at her. Evidently, they did not have enough alcohol in the body to believe they were dreaming. Icy threw a quick glance at the woman in front of her, who was staring at her with her eyes wide open and her mouth open. She was sorry for her. She did not want to upset her that way. She turned her attention to the black-haired man. I have something for you two if you want, and floated a small blue ball in the palm of her hand. The man paled, raised Kurt, and together they fled, followed by the man with a gun, imprecating like there was no tomorrow. Icy watched them get away and slowly approached the woman. She retreated. Hey, it's all right. Stay calm. She took her by the arm and helped her to sit on the floor. Can you tell me what's your name? She asked. The woman opened and closed her mouth a couple of times before answering her. Lizzie. My name is Lizzie Hale. Okay, Lizzie. Now we wait for you to calm down a bit, and then I accompany you. Where? To the hotel? Lizzie nodded, without fully understanding what was being said to her. Icy settled beside her to wait. By doing so, she did not notice the spark that crossed Lizzie's eyes, extinguishing itself with the one that had flashed for a second in her eyes. End of chapter 3. Okay, so Lizzie's like a OC, and she's got that OC spelling where it's like a common name, but like something is slightly off about it. I'm definitely like people are like, only OCs are only in like bad self-insert fanfictions. I can't say that because I have definitely done my fair share of OC fanfictions. Actually, almost every fanfiction I've written has some kind of OC. I don't think I've ever done anything like that. I think the closest I've ever gotten to was Pate Slaylessa from my Star Wars fanfiction. But Star Wars is kind of a weird thing where it's like kind of like weird spellings are acceptable. So it doesn't really count. But you could say it counts. You could. So yeah, let me know what you think. I think this is going to be the last chapter, chapter 4. Okay, chapter 4, history class. She had one of the best concerts of the last month. After meeting hundreds of people at the meet and greet and after the concert, 2 girls, a blonde and one with fire red hair, they were well impressed in her mind. She came out to take a breath and a man had drawn her attention. A handsome man, probably not younger than her. She approached him, and she had not seen the other 2 men who dragged her into the alley. She was perfectly capable of defending herself and in fact had tried to rebel. But seeing the gun that one of the 3 was hiding in his jacket had been a very powerful sedative. However, Lizzie could not hold back that hysterical cry, "Stay away!" when the blonde had touched her. She had evidently attracted the attention of the long, blue-haired girl who was now sitting on the ground next to her. She had come suddenly, and before she could shout her to run away or to be careful about the gun, she had frozen the gun. She still could not believe it. Holy heaven, she should have run away from her, not sit there staring into the void, but something prevented her from doing so. She was convinced she didn't have to be afraid of that strange girl who was talking to her and had the air of those who expected an answer. Lizzie blinked to focus and stared at her. The girl repeated the question. "Do you think you can walk? We can't stay here forever. At least, I should be somewhere else." There was a nuisance in her voice, but Lizzie did not understand if she had it in for her. Walk? She mentally walked to the road that separated her from the band's bus. Yes, it was a viable business, although high heels would not be helpful in the state she was. She felt her head wrapped around a layer of wadding. All of it seemed surreal, and was not sure she still had the precious good commonly called balance. At last she managed to make an answer. "Yes, I think so, if you help me." The girl stood up with an elegant motion and held out her hand. Lizzie picked it up and startled. It was cold as ice. The girl smiled and helped her to get up. Once standing, Lizzie leaned to the wall for a moment, then headed with uncertain steps to the main road. The girl approached her. "Where are you going?" she asked. Without stopping walking, Lizzie said, "At the bus. My guys are already there. It's in the parking lot at the back of the club. But I don't want you to leave when we get there. She bit her lip. She was talking like an automat, and she did not even know why she wanted the strange girl to stay. Maybe she wanted explanations. Perhaps she wanted her companions to see her, to be sure she did not hallucinate. She didn't know. She just wanted her to stay. The girl looked at her for a moment, thoughtfully, then said to her, "I will not go. Not now. You have the right to explanations, no matter if... Never mind, they're my problems." Lizzie looked right and left before crossing the street. I can't tell who's saying what. Those three were my problems if that's the case. Let's say we had a pending account. Cunning baby doll, have you also been fooled? Almost. A light brown lock moved in front of Lizzie's eyes, preventing her from seeing Icy. She pulled it back. The dark-haired one wasn't bad. Too bad he's a big meanie in the negative way. The girl replied, almost amused. I didn't know there was a positive way. Did they send him along with you too? Lizzie choked a laugh. Oh God, I can't. Let me redo that because I think I got like who's talking wrong. She pulled it out. The dark hair wasn't bad. Too bad he's a big in the negative way. The girl replied, I don't think there was a positive way. They sent him along with you too. Lizzie choked a laugh. Depends on the context, and yes, they sent him along with me too. Meanwhile, they had come to the bus, but Lizzie did not realize that RJ, her younger brother, ran out followed by the others and started bombarding her with words. Liz, we were beginning to worry. What happened? Then he seemed to notice the girl. Smiling, he asked his sister, And the blue fairy here? Who is she? To the word fairy, the girl opened her eyes and strode the boys with her gaze, clenching her fists. At the same time, a chill wind moved her high tail. Lizzie shuddered and answered abruptly to her brother, She's the girl who probably saved my life. Can we please get in? The three, who certainly did not expect such a response, shifted their eyes from Lizzie to Icy, but they had the common sense of letting her on the bus. Once inside, Lizzie pulled in her ankle boot without much compliments, curled up on a couch and closed her eyes, crossing her arms around her body. The cold wind had disturbed her, and the lightweight tank top and black leather shorts had not blocked it. RJ sat next to her. Josh took another couch in front of them, and Joe stood up. The girl, evidently uncomfortable, preferred to sit on the floor in front of Lizzie. The heavy silence was broken by the guitarist. Moving the weight from one leg to the other and then deciding to lean against the wall, Joe asked, Liz, what happened? The woman took a breath and, without opening her eyes, began to tell the story. RJ blanched when he realized what his sister was talking about, while the other two tensed up. Icy, on the other hand, felt the blood flush in her veins hearing the story, a bit because of anger and a bit because she did not know how to explain to the four who and what she was. What a mess. Bloom would have probably killed her. Wait a minute. Was she really worried about her? Meanwhile, Lizzie had finished her story and had finally opened her eyes. For the first time, she'd carefully watched the girl sitting in front of her. She was pale, maybe albino, and her hair was not really blue, but had shades of white, silvery, and dark blue. She was wearing blue shorts and a top in tint. All in all, she resembled an ice statue. When she crossed her gaze, she felt a shudder run along her back. More than the color, it struck the sadness of those eyes, concealed but present. Lizzie bravely said to her, You said I deserved explanations. Can you give me them now? The girl took a deep breath. Please ask. Okay, simple things first. What's your name? Icy. Lizzie wondered if she was making fun of her. Although Icy was definitely an appropriate name, she went on. How did you freeze the phone? Icy made a half smile. Like this, she said, snapping her fingers. One of Lizzie's boots, lying abandoned on the floor, was covered with a layer of ice. Lizzie gave a jump. RJ jumped out of the couch, cursing. Joe whistled with admiration, and Josh petrified, as if Icy had frozen him too. When RJ returned to sit, Icy made the ice disappear from the shoe and resumed. As you have noticed, I have magical powers. More specifically, I am a witch, not a fairy. And looked at RJ. And I do not like being called a fairy. I have no glittering wings on my back. I come from the planet of Wishperia, but I'm currently living in Magix, another planet. Wait a minute, what? Are you saying that there are 2 planets inhabited and you move safely from one to the other? Joe interrupted. Icy turned to him. Not just 2 planets. There are about 100, not counting the moons that have livable atmosphere. These planets, belonging to different solar systems, form the magic dimension. Earth also belongs to it. Josh frowned. If there are all these worlds in contact with each other, why don't we know them? And if magic is a fairly widespread reality to form a magical dimension, why don't we even know that? Firstly, because your technology is still lagging behind. Secondly, because this planet magic has disappeared for centuries and has returned only a few years ago. Lizzie listened attentively. How? How did it disappear, and how did it come back? Icy smiled at her. Oh my god, are we going to get a whole explanation of season 4? This is quite complicated to explain, but I will try to be as clear as possible. You must know that magic can be fueled by positive or negative energy. The positive magic, by definition, are fairies and mages, the negative, witches and wizards. Now, the beauty of 600 years ago, a group of wizards discovered that the wings of fairies increased their powers and began to hunt them. The kingdom of the earth fairies, the island of Tir-Nan-Og, became their prison, because once the wizards stole their wings, they let them live, but they were careful enough to isolate them from the rest of the universe by destroying the keys that opened the portal for the island. Slowly, fairies disappeared, and as positive magic and negative magic cannot exist without the other, even witches and wizards began to diminish. Men, having venerated them for centuries as gods, forgot them and relegated them and the other magical creatures among the legends. Then, less than 3 years ago, a group of fairies discovered that there was still an earthling fairy somewhere. Once they found the girl, they pledged to free the earth fairies and bring magic back to Earth. Joe interrupted her again. The earth fairies were still alive after centuries? On the island of Tir-Nan-Og, it's impossible to grow older. With fairies, other magical creatures have also returned to Earth, but the awareness of magic is still localized to a few areas of the planet. Some cities and other continents, in the Amazonian forest, where nature's fairies have returned to live once free, too little for the news to spread. A few minutes of silence followed. Hailstorm needed to assimilate all that information. Suddenly, a phone was heard ringing. Icy made her cell phone appear and made a grimace of disappointment when she saw who was calling her. Now it was difficult. Okay, that was chapter 4. It's funny, I think this last chapter was the longest one. So yeah, this fanfiction definitely like brings me back, because like I feel like the stereotype of what we think of as fanfiction is like, you know, having like OCs with kind of unique names, or like kind of like edgy names where it's like you change one letter, and like having these OCs and like, oh, they're forming a band. I feel like that's still what a lot of people think of as fanfiction, but I feel like actual fanfiction has really moved on from that in at least in some fandoms. I think what the fandom chooses to focus on in fanfiction really varies by fandom, I feel like. But I think like Winx Club has generally moved on from that, but like this is like really like nostalgic for me, I think. Because it's like, yeah, it's like very like late 2000s, early 2010s, like fan fiction territory. And and it makes me think of like the good old days. So yeah, let me know what you thought of both of Even a Witch and Nurture of Their Flower was the one we read earlier. So yeah, I am going to link both of them down below. And if you would like me to continue either of them, because I know Nurture of Their Flower looks like it just started. So I'm assuming there's going to be more chapters in the future. So let me know if you want me to continue either of these fan fictions, or if you want me to read another like fan fiction from another fandom that you like. I know that like Keela requested Lord of the Rings. I did Lord of the Rings, and yeah, because like if nobody requests anything, I'm basically just kind of do the stuff that's kind of already in my wheelhouse, like Winx Club. And then next week, I think I'm going to be doing random Marvel fan fiction. So subscribe if you're looking forward to that. And yeah, that's about it for me. I am going to take a nap. No, I'm probably going to get some pre-filming stuff done for when I film my WandaVision review tomorrow. So yeah, wow, 2 people joined the stream right as it's ending. But I'll give you guys a minute to say goodbye. For those of you who just came in, I just read all of Nurture of Their Flower, at least all the chapters that are here right now, chapters 1 and 2, and then the first 4 chapters of Even a Witch. So yeah, the live stream will be available on the replay if you didn't catch that. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you next time.